Hello, hello.
Hello, Jess.
How is it going? Sorry, I gotta turn off the music around here. Give me a sec.
No, you're good. You're good. Hello, everyone. I'm good. Coming back from New York City NFT with a lot of insights and super excited for the topic of today's space.
That's awesome. Yes, glad to have you back. And I'm excited. I lived through everybody's pictures. I don't, Keisha and Liz, were you ladies at NYC or is Val the only one that is gonna brag about her time there?
Hi.
Hey.
No, I was not there this year.
Yeah, no, I was not either. I did not go this year. I was there last year, but I did not this year. I feel like it was a lot of back-to-back events, and I'll be going to VCon next month, but not going to NYC. No, did not do it.
Yes, so many events, but yeah, that would definitely interested to hearing your insights about that. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming back to another episode of Espresso Hour. It's been a long day for me. I started a space at 9 in the morning. But I'm very excited to be here with you ladies. And definitely if anybody wants to come up and contribute, but yeah, Val, how glad to have you back as usual. How's everything going?
Yeah, it was good. Everything is going great. Just catching up. I think that it's exhausting to be honest, going to this event because you need like a specific guide of what places to go and with who you're gonna meet, so you don't waste time. Like itself, the conference, I have like a lot of improving opportunities. I think time can be managed in a different way, and also I think I got a like really valuable insights from all the speakers. Though I went to certain places that I was more interested in, like marketing, which is good for today's space. We're gonna relate a little bit about that and how brands are integrating NFTs and technology into the whole customer journey and how they're experiencing and creating partnerships also with other companies. So I think we have a lot of insights. I got a lot of insights from there. And yeah, I can tell you that parties went crazy. I think those are the insights.
I know, yeah, the parties definitely look lit. So glad you had a good time. But yeah, we also have here our two special guests. So Liz, welcome. Maybe give. I know we all know you because you're our Web3 bestie, but give a little intro. So glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz, if we don't know each other already. I am definitely a certified DJin. I've been doing some crazy things with Pepe over the past couple of days, so that's also me. And I have a Twitter Spaces that I co-host with Becky Wowo. I'm sure a lot of you also know her. We co-hosted Twitter Spaces together on Thursday nights called Girls Night in Web3, and all are welcome. It's a great time, so definitely come through tomorrow if you can and come check us out. You can follow your Web3 besties, and we post all the spaces there so you can set your reminders and things. So that's a lot of fun. Jess has been on there quite a bit, and we love you. And then also, I work in Web3 doing partnerships. So I have been working with Unstoppable Domains for the past year. And so I have experience in that. And then before Web3, I was working in the HR tech space, leading some marketing and partnerships as well, like lots of boring corporate stuff. So I definitely had to piece out of that and come over to Web3. It's like, how can I do this and also be a DJin? So here we are.
Been
Love
there, done that.
Yeah.
little DJ, little corporate. You know
Yeah.
how it goes.
Best of both worlds over here.
Awesome, awesome. And Keisha, welcome. What's going on? So happy to have you here.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad you invited me over. I guess a little intro on me for those who don't know me, but I feel like I know a lot of people here. But I've been in the space for a pretty long time. I actually came from a DeFi background before even getting into NFTs. And now I am the managing editor and spearheading Web3 relationships over at Hypebeast, which is really fun. And Hypebeast created their Web3 arm, which is Hype Moon. And yeah.
Nice, nice. And I do see a couple of the gentlemen up here. Sorry, guys, due to time constraints, I'm not going to introduce all you guys, but I do want you guys to contribute and pick their brains. These ladies are actively, working in Web3, building partnerships, doing marketing. So if anybody has any questions and wants to contribute to the conversation, feel free to come up. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for getting here. So where do we get started with this? I don't even know where to start because there's so much to talk about. Like, I guess, what is the basics? Like, is there really a difference between Web3 marketing and partnerships versus Web2? And I'll throw that over maybe to Liz if you want to start with that and share your thoughts.
Whoa, that's a big question. I would definitely say there's a big difference when it comes to Web 2 and Web 3. Web 3 is very much more community based. I'm going to speak from a partnership marketing experience viewpoint. So with Web 3, very community based, like very much thinking about the culture, also understanding what people like, what they respond to, and listening to what people want, and then making decisions to move towards that. Versus my Web 2 corporate partner marketing experience was very much like, how can we get our sales teams to drive more money for the bottom line? Like, we're incentivizing sales teams. We're doing deals for them to make more money if they mention our product. Doing webinars to get leads into the funnel. And I'm not saying revenue or leads or users or everything doesn't also matter in Web3. It does. Like, you need healthy businesses and they need to be making money and they need users to use their product. But in Web2 corporate culture, you're not thinking about community like you are here. And like, I'm not over here.
That's a good thing or a bad thing that you have to incorporate the community aspect?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a fun thing. Like, it has more of a human element to it. And, these are people that are using your products or buying whatever you're selling. And I think it's important to listen to them and pay more attention to what they want. It doesn't mean handing over the entire control to the community and like not being able to have your boundaries and make the best business decisions for yourself. You may absolutely do things that not everyone likes or wants, but generally speaking, having a pulse on your people, that doesn't exist much in corporate. So I think that's a really nice thing. And then, and that's where community and like people have to understand too, like a business still has to, it's a business they have to run. So don't expect them to just like drop what they're doing and do what you want instantly either, because there are priorities and things to get done, and a lot of things behind the scenes people don't like, unless you're in it, you don't always know about, and so the company can't talk about. But I think it's a nice thing to have a community pulse within business for sure.
Yeah, I'll go ahead, chime in, and then we'll go to Cowboy.
Yeah, I wanna hop in that and jump in that topic because actually I agree with Liz. One of the things I've heard, I took some notes on the NFT NYC, and it caught my attention that all the companies in the entertainment industry is working on the base that you need to see traditional institutions as someone that you need to get curious about crypto and this technology first, because all the efforts are are putting in creating this synergy between the creator and the fans, and that interaction is just, it needs to be in a way you need to be as a brand or as a company very curious, because it's a different way of creating a more closer fan creator relationship. So I think that in that moment I was in a space where they were talking about the relationship. For example, when American Idol went out, Ryan Seacrest in that moment, he taught people how to text In that moment, no one used to text to vote in American Idol. And for example, Fox TV and what they're doing with a project that is called Corpopolis, I think that's the name, is very famous. They are making people vote through NFTs. So marketing itself and the base of how marketing operates in the Web2 world is not the same, but it's very alike. I think the main difference, Liz, and I don't know if you agree, is that now the most important thing, like the top one, is that creating that closer relationship when you as a fan are part of the creation process. So you get the chance to choose and to create with the company. You are working with Fox. You are working with History Channel to create a more tailor-made experience that is really focused on the fans. That's where the insights I got from it, and I think it's just an amazing experience. I, like, me personally, I was very, very apart from marketing because I was like burnt out from the marketing web to traditional work. And when I went to these events and I heard about how that integration with NFT is happening, a red light just turned out for me, and it was like, this is a whole new way of connecting with communities.
Awesome. Totally agree. Go ahead, Cowboy.
Oh, sorry about that. My phone was in my pocket. I appreciate you guys. Hey, Jess. Hey, Val. Crypto. So I was at NFT NYC also, but I went to all like the parties and the gatherings. And sorry if I'm in the grocery store. It might be a cutout in and out. But what I saw was the best way to onboard people is just the parties. I mean, I met so many people just at the socials and parties. And you're just having a blast with them, and then you're just naturally curious about what they're doing, what they got going on. So I think that's just an amazing way to onboard people. If you have like a ready-made QR code or a business card, you can tap on someone's phone and you can go to these events. It's a great way to onboard a ton of people into a community. Another thing is I consult for a lot of businesses who want to get into Web3. And the way I explain Web 2 and Web 3 to them is that, normally you would, invest into let's say a restaurant. You invest into a restaurant, you build it out, and then you open it, and then you look for customers, right? And, I'm actually consulting for a pizza place, a pizza company. And I told them, before you open up in New York City, take 6 months, whatever your date you want to open. Take 6 months and just drop sneak peeks of your food and stuff like that on Instagram and run paid ads and build up like anticipation. You know what I'm saying? So I try to explain to them, in Web3, we build community first, and Web2, they build the business first, so, what is the right way? I'm curious to get your thoughts from the crowd or from the speakers. What do you think is the best way? Should we be doing it the way they've been doing it all these years, or building a community first is the proper way to build a business? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Tisha, I'll throw it over to you. What do you think about this? And maybe talk about some of the partnerships that you've worked on in Web 2 or Web 3, and which ones you found easier or harder.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting question, and I feel like there's not exactly a right or wrong answer to it just yet. I feel like both of them can work cohesively and peacefully together, and then I think that they could also work separately. And I was going to jump on your point in the beginning too around experiential and like the parties and things like that. I wouldn't exactly say that parties onboard people because, unless you're invited, you're not really going to get in. But I do know where you're coming from. I still think that experiential is important. I was actually talking last week. I didn't go to NFT NYC, but I interviewed a small company called Seed Brooklyn, that they actually have a physical retailer shop in Brooklyn in a really famous borough there. And during NFT NYC, they did a augmented reality workshops, Metaverse 101, like mini crash courses. Like they showed people how to mint an NFT. Like they walked people through the art, and they also explained even though I don't like this word, they explained the physical aspect of things, of like what it means to connect a digital item and then create a physical item from that, or vice versa. And I thought it was really cool. They broke it down for me. They had a really great turnout. They had people like Latasha perform, and I think Swopes was one of the artists that they were exhibiting. Like they obviously know who they're talking to and what they're talking about. And I think that's important. And I think that, in the Web2 or Web3 world, that's something that a lot of companies miss, is like, who are you exactly talking to, right? And what are you talking about? Like, do you know what you're talking about? And then more importantly, like, who is your target audience? Who is the main purpose? Like, who's going to really vibe and resonate with that? I think that what they did was really vital, because they did it in a specific part in Brooklyn, the shop, the aesthetic outside. It looks like an interesting place. You look at it, you're like, I want to go in and see what's going on. And almost half of the people that went to their event never knew what an NFT was before that, right? And I think like those are the type of pop-ups, those are the type of situations that really bridge that gap and onboard people. But to go back to your question, and like from my experience of kind of connecting brands, and obviously there's a lot I can't say from my company standpoint, but even before that, I worked with a lot of brands, and sort of, I think one thing that I saw and I brought up that always worked and resonated well was that aspect of they did their research first and knew who they actually wanted to talk to before going out and just dumping a product that they think their audience is going to like, and they think is what's trending and hip right now, when you're either hopping on a hype train or you actually have no direction. So I think that's an important aspect all around. And I think it doesn't matter if you're a Web2 or Web3 company, you can falter in that. And there could be a lot of errors that come along the way. That's why I wouldn't say it's one or the other. I think it's a mixture, but also knowing that you have a foundation to stand on, and before any of that comes into play. So I think I also come from like a traditional marketing world, and like I used to work in real estate, which is like insane, and telecommunications, like it's a shitty salesy world, and you just like, it's unethical. There's a lot of like just shit talking and peer pressure and a lot of words that mean nothing. And I think that getting into the Web3 world, I actually like the way, obviously not in the beginning. And I also mentioned I come from DeFi, which I know how influencer marketing work. I know how pumping and dumping, like all of that works. Obviously, I don't like that aspect of the Web3 marketing world, but I did like the aspect of like people getting together to create thoughtful products that they really resonated with, and then found a community and an audience that would do the same. And I just think that there was a bit more thought and like love put into it, instead of just like, hey, let's do a campaign, let's target such and such demographic, and let's see who grabs onto the rail, right? I think that world just doesn't work anymore. The ad world is not the same world that it was 10 years ago. And the marketing world, even in Web2, isn't the same. So I don't think it's that we're shifting to a Web3 marketing way. I just think that marketing is changing in general. And it's, we're going to have to adapt and flow with it. That was a long-winded answer, but yeah.
I don't know, Jesse, if you want to talk, but I would like to complete an idea that Keisha was saying, because I think that's what I understood and I totally support it. I don't think there's a way of doing things in Web3, to be honest. I always like to see this as an exploratory phase, and I will use the word integrating traditional marketing with digital marketing, and if you can say it, Web3 marketing. When I was there, I realized that you really need to be clear when you are offering a project or creating a project, what problem are you really solving and for whom? Because you can be solving different problems, but you might want to be focused in one, depending of the nature of your project, which can be totally different from what you think it was. Because the thing, what happened with Web3 is like you start with an idea of a project, and along the way, the community that get interested demands you to do something different, or demands you to give another type of utility, which is important. So I think, if you ask me, having a lot of clarity about what painful problem you're solving and how you're going to reward them, And if that's about global problem, or if you can solve it in a universal way, it's also important. And I think it's also important to take in consideration what is the capability of your business. So what can you really deliver? Because what you can really deliver is, I think this is the thing that's going to make you create partnerships. And I don't know if Keisha or Liz or Jess agree with this, but I think that you have to match the expectation of your customers in Web 2, in Web 3, in Web 4, in Web 10. Like, it's about that. Now we don't have niching so clear anymore. That's exactly what Keisha said. Before, advertising was for dummies and everyone can be targeted. You can know, but now the way we consume content has changed a lot. And we are in a reality when we're consuming a bunch of stuff at the same time, and we call ourselves degens. So it's really important to know who are you targeting, and knowing that maybe you cannot niche yourself. And I think the last thing I will say about it, it's content. So what are you doing in the context of your business, and how your NFT will be used, or it's being used? What's the real utility? Because like I said, there's a change, it might change. So you can know at the end what your reach is going to look like in the short, medium, and long term. I think those are my insights, Tom, about that, and what I realized about, how to onboard people, how to create partnerships. I just think you need to have a lot of clarity in what you're doing right now, and that's the base you have to start building. I don't know if
Yeah, I think you guys all made great points. And Cowboy, I'll come back to you in a minute. I do want to get some of the other speakers in the conversation. Curtis, my fellow coffee lover, I did have maybe to bring it to this topic. Like, have you had any interactions with like Web2 coffee brands? Any positive insights or negative insights that maybe you want to share?
Yeah, I'm actually seeing a lot of diversity and crossover in Web 2 and Web 3 coffee. Like, I've seen some very traditional brands and companies in New York City just try and bridge the gap to maybe it's like a technological innovation, or just trying to expand their audience, but getting into the Web 3 world. That being said, I'm mostly working with like Web 3 coffee brands. It's just more natural for me. I can easily relate with them just off the JPEG that I have here. So that's really been my focus early on in my brand building stage. But like I said, there's some crossover. And then there's also, what I'm seeing is Web 2 companies are building solutions to increase like transparency and traceability, but they're not even using like Web 3 technology. So like they have the ideas, but they just aren't there yet with the tech to like implement it, from what I'm seeing.
Curtis, I have a question. Do you think it's because the lack of education? Like, do you think the main problem is because there's not enough information about how to integrate this? Or do you think it's just because sometimes people is just not okay or comfortable with changing the way they've been doing things? I think I'm just curious to hear everyone's opinion.
My perspective on that is that it's just a brand new technology, and it's a big risk to be like the first adopter in industry. There are a few companies and software, SaaS companies that are building blockchain products to track like coffee from the farm to your cup, but none of them have been very successful. It's very early days. I think the industry is pushing for more and more efficiency, so it's going to happen like one way or the other. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take.
Great point. And last but not least, I did want to welcome Dal. Welcome, Dal. How's it going? And I do have a question for you if you are there.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? I don't have any espresso, but I'm enjoying the conversation.
You're obviously a content creator and you're full on DeFi degen. Where do you think where do you think DeFi projects could possibly like improve in their marketing or partnerships, or is there anything that you feel that is missing for like the long-term success of a DeFi project?
Yeah, I'll answer it in two parts, right? So I answer actually more from my background. So when I got into crypto, I got into as a dev evangelist. And what that means is kind of like promoting the protocols to developers to try it out. And that was hard. As Val was saying, uh, it's a new space, not a lot of best practices. So a lot of it was around go to conferences and showing people like how the protocol works, showing developers how to get started. And later on, like after a couple of years, started realizing it's a lot easier to talk to developers who are already in Web3 and work with those existing protocols, right? So my second part was actually as a biz dev. And if you look at project like Chainlink, project like Polygon, for example, the biz dev is insane, right? They're not just talking to project in Web3, they're talking to project in Web2. And I think, sorry about my voice, but the difference between the two is if you want a partnership in Web3, maybe not from the marketing side of you, but from the integration, technical integration. Let's say Chainlink is working with Uniswap for Uniswap to use their Oracle. That's really easy because it's really a matter of their dev teams working together. And then once they have something that works, they talk to the higher ups, and then the marketing team comes around and say, "Hey, we'll make the announcement." So it's very, it's the same as traditional partnership, right? I think the real issue right now, as far as I can tell, right, to kind of answer your question, Jess, is for Web3 brands to talk to Web2, you have to speak the lingo, right? You have to understand the business cycle, and that starts to from how do you approach people, right? Who are you supposed to approach to? Do you randomly cold call them, or do you find a connection through an event? And then how do you actually explain what your technology is? Do you have a pilot ready for them to play with it, right? Or is it more a matter of a conversation that it takes time for them to actually understand what your technology is? And then a lot of those companies move really, really slow. So you might have a conversation 3 months ago, but you have to be able to follow up for 3 months and be able to call and to say, hey, we made a few updates and you guys will be interested in this and that and that and this, right? So I think that's where there's a lot of friction. So I don't know what the magic sauce is from Chainlink and Polygon. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and listen to this conversation, but they have an understanding. They understand the lingo. I'm sure some of them has worked in Web2 in BizDev for plenty of years and they had Rolodex connection. But it's true that it's not something that is widely understood from most Web3 projects, whether it's in DeFi or whether it's in NFTs.
Completely agree. And now that Cowboy, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but go ahead and chime in.
No, it's all good. I was at the grocery store and I was shopping, so it worked out perfectly. I just want to say that a couple of things
How much are
that
the
was.
eggs right now? Eggs are
Oh, I
up
didn't
or
get any
down?
eggs, so they're probably expensive. The place I go to is like an Italian market, so everything's expensive there. But two things I wanted to say. One thing that was amazing is that there were so many women entrepreneurs I ran into at like these events with just the coolest technology. I mean, one lady had like a vodka brand. You buy the NFT, you get the vodka. Another girl, she taps your nails on your phone and her information pulls up on her press-on nails. So more than anything, I met so many women entrepreneurs. It was a beautiful thing to see because this is not reflected on Twitter. And then another thing is, I think the new meta is like DAOs. So I saw all these. So most of the events I went to, you either needed to get like some type of NFT pass. So what I saw a lot of there is like instant utility. You buy the pass, you get into whatever is going on, and then coming up. You know what I'm saying? There's no chart. There's no up and down. There's none of that. It's just you just buy the NFT. Boom, you're in a techno DAO. You get to go to all the events, or you're in this DAO, or you're in that DAO. So that was pretty interesting to see too. So many companies that are doing DAOs where you just put your money in and then boom, And I saw a lot of party DAOs. Like Techno DAO was really cool, and they had events all around the world. And it was like $100 USD or ETH to get in. So like, I just wanted to share that with you guys. It was really amazing to see those two things happen in that NFT week.
Yeah, it's interesting to see all the cool stuff people are coming out with. Let's throw it over to Because Bitcoin, and then I have a few more questions for Liz and Keisha. Welcome, Because Bitcoin.
Hey, what's going on, Jess? It's Wabi. How you doing?
Hey, Wabi, how's it going?
Doing great, doing great. Yeah, Dal told me you guys were doing a spaces, so I wanted to chime in as far as how partnerships work and all that stuff. And being an individual that is very new to the like social media aspect side of Web3, like Twitter Spaces, YouTube AMAs, and things like that. I think the most useful thing to do if like you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of new to the space as far as connecting with others is getting involved in Twitter Spaces and reaching out to those content creators such as yourself and also Dow Chemist, who's been a huge help to the brand. And really just going on calls, creating a pitch deck, like who you are, what your product market fit is for the respective brand that you want to have on the show, and also following up and checking in, right? So an intro call and a call before, like any sort of collaboration, and really having an open door to where you can use your platform or your resources to have the narrative of said project or said community thought leader shine in your collaboration, whether it's spaces, whether it's a YouTube AMA, or hosting them on a networking event, like on a panel. That's what I've found to work out for myself. And through those things, I've gotten to experience things that were truly not thought possible a couple of months ago. And it's that's really the gist of it. And I think with Twitter Spaces, I think it's one of the greatest networking tools to ever exist. And I know for the gentleman Cowboy who was mentioning NFT NYC, like conference and stuff like that, although I do think that's like the old school way of doing things, I also believe that Twitter Spaces offers a new perspective in networking, because you can sort of think of it, right, as a virtual summit where if you were to compare to a conference, right, you don't have to pay the room and board or flight ticket or your pass to the event, where, the purse size can be thousands of dollars, right? And, to network with individuals, you don't really get much time. That's what everybody else is trying to do. It's sort of like, 1,000 people trying to get through one door. But with Twitter Spaces, it offers a more interactive experience. And of course, it's free of charge, which is nice, right? And the barrier to entry, as far as like, networking in the space is not as difficult as people make it seem out to be. It's just about communication, and engaging with your audience, following up, and being receptive to everything. And those are sort of my thoughts. And thank you for bringing me up on the panel, and hope you guys are doing well. And greetings to Dow. Always love networking with Dow, and great individual. And happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to speak on the panel tonight.
No, thank you for coming. And yes, we love Dow. And I think you brought up some great points, was actually going to lead me to what I was going to talk about with Liz, because what you said, having a pitch deck, being consistent, having like, whenever you reach out to somebody, exposing yourself as a brand. And Liz, what you did something with Notion. I'd love for you to talk about it if you'd like, about like how you're helping creators or brands present themselves, because I looked at it and it's amazing. Val, I know you're a Notion junkie. You're gonna love this.
I'm a Notion DJ.
Me too. I love Notion. I stay in Notion. Like, it's the best. So everything that was said is so true. Like the following up, making sure you're communicating what you bring to the table in a partnership. Like, that's very important. Making about your prospective partner first, like give, then ask. And that's super important. So I'm making a resource, kind of like gathering my experience in all different types of partnerships. I already have a free type of like partnership checklist of things to consider and make sure you have prepared that you can access in Notion. If you go to my profile, it's my pinned tweet. So that's free. And then what Jess is talking about, I'm making more, well, I actually already made this. It's a digital product, but I'm like updating it to be cuter and just like updated everything. I added some more like Web3 relevant things to it, but basically it's I haven't released it yet, but it's a permissionless partnerships bundle, and it has basically a system I'm making in Notion to help partnerships be a little easier for people, even if you don't work full-time in partnerships. Just like staying organized, like having a tracker or starting to create your list of like who you want to partner with, and do the research and finding those contacts, creating a Rolodex essentially of like who you want to pitch. I have a lot of pitch email templates that I've used for all kinds of different partnerships and collaborations over the years. And so I have all of those in there that you can literally like copy and paste or like customize however you want. Follow-up templates, because following up is very important when it comes to partnerships, and also can be super awkward for people. Like you probably feel like you're annoying them and you don't want to like bother them. But honestly, like you have to follow up because people are busy. Like that's just the facts. And you're not the one on top of their mind all the time. So you do need to follow up. And it's not annoying. It's just, I love it when people follow up because I'm like, oh my gosh, thanks. I totally forgot. And so then I can do the thing. So I have follow-up email templates, media kits. So if you're a creator, depending on what type of partnerships, honestly, even a company too, like you need a media kit. And that's the document that says like who you are, what your brand is, what you stand for, basically what you do, any important stats around your brand, like your audience, who is your audience, like age, location, demographic. Like those things are important for a brand, especially if you're like you want to be targeting a similar audience. Examples of past work, testimonials, like all kinds of stuff goes into a media kit. So I have 3 different options there. So I'll chill on the shilling, but you did ask me to talk about it, so I'm happy to.
No, you're good. You're good.
Anyways.
That's exactly what people should do. I mean, that's exactly what, it's so much easier when you have so much clarity in how to do networking.
Yeah.
It's not the same if you just reach to someone and like, hey, my name is Val.
Yeah.
It's different when you just, you acknowledge something. Hey, I know you're working in this. I am working in this. I think we can merge this together and partner and do a partnership. I think when you have clarity of how you're going to reach someone, I think the way of doing networking and reaching someone today needs to have a lot of clarity and ownership. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, Liz.
I agree with you completely. And also something that's super important and honestly really simple if you just take the time to do it is being organized and being professional. And like that sounds super simple, like no brainer, but trust me, like it really will make you stand out. I've had conversations with heads of like partnerships and stuff at like popular wallets we all like know, and it's amazing how like you just being buttoned up and like organized, like even if you have a nice Notion dashboard you're using, or a Google Doc that's like really clear on your partnership like campaign, what you're doing, who is doing what to expect, here are the links, like the messaging, whatever it is, like as simple as a Google Doc, you guys, it can be so impressive to another partner. And if you're just like on top of it and you're organized, that's a great way to like get good relationship rapport too. It's like, wow, I know I can count on this person and I know they're organized and like everything I need is in one place. Like it just makes the whole process so easy. Truly, honestly. Track your stuff. Yeah.
And I did want to throw it to Keisha. I mean, Keisha, you work with a lot of doing partnerships. Do you think like do you consider whether the brand or the creator has a media kit? Like, does that matter, or does that not play a role in working with a person?
No, of course. And I love that Liz and Val are both Notion junkies because I'm also a huge fan and I've kind of implemented it into my team by force now. But I think it matters 100%, especially even in the media world. You have no idea how many people will send me a press release through a Twitter DM, right? Like literally something they just wrote together, added a couple bullet points, and that said, "Oh, we don't have a picture." Like that like you would be so surprised at how often that happens. And even just that, right? Like having a proper PR team or putting together a decent press release so that your announcement can get out there and like, you can have proper coverage. Even that matters a ton. But obviously we, as a company as well, when we're kind of looking through partnerships and seeing who we're going to move forward with or who not, obviously the first thing we ask is for a pitch deck. You know what I mean? Like you need to see a pitch deck. I need to see numbers. I need to see, like, if you're asking, what are you asking for? Are you asking for money? Are you asking for partnerships? Like these
Where
things
do
have
you
to
add
be.
the numbers, at the first slide or the last slide? Like, tell us the important stuff.
You have to add it somewhere. You have to add it somewhere. You can't just slide by that and just verbally, oh, we'll figure it out. Like, no, these things, like corporations just don't work that way. We need to have everything kind of flat out and straightforward. And then once it gets to a serious point, then legal gets tuned in and like they need to see those numbers and what's going to happen as well. It's a whole system and it might be tedious and not work on the Web3 time flow, but it's entirely necessary to have proper deals and not get screwed over as well. You have to take time, process things through legal, especially if it's a big partnership, or if there's money involved or investments or whatever it may be, right? Even if it's a win-win situation, there needs to be a very clear understanding. It can't just be something we talked about at an NFT party and we just verbally laughed about. Like you need to give me a proper pitch deck. We need to have proper documents in place and in order, and there needs to be also accountability in the sense of that where you're coming from with this, right? Like you can't go around asking VCs for money and this is your first rodeo and you have a community manager and a mod on your team. You know what I mean? Like you can't approach VCs in that form. You need to have proper advisors or proper partnerships established, and a background to kind of back you up, right? Who is going to be the CEO? You can't just say it's like you and your brother. Like I think even in the sense of titles, that I think that slide in the pitch deck where you see the team, even though that might not be the most important, I think it's important. Like you need to have some solid people on your shoulder with a respectable reputation and that are actually there working alongside you. If someone's pitching something and I see that it's a one-man rodeo and there's nobody else to communicate with, that's also red flags to look out for. So it's important to have a vision. I don't think roadmaps are everything, obviously. Like I think we need to, a pitch deck is like, take your roadmap, that's your bullet point, now expand on it and give a slide for each point and the way to get there and what you're going to do even after that, right? You can't just give me 5 bullet points and tell me you're going to the moon. Like I just think those things matter. Verbiage matters and presentability matters. Like I know Web3 we're behind the PFPs and things like that, and that's fine with me, but even if we're just having an audio conversation, those first couple words or the way you go about certain things, that's going to matter too. Just I think having proper business etiquette is important, and I think that that's also something that lacks a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Definitely seen some really unprofessional stuff in Web3. But let's throw it over to Because and then Cowboy, and then I'll let Val chime in if she wants to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Jess. I agree with what Keisha's saying, and I think one thing that we also need to keep in mind is also to show up on time. and also communication. Communication is always key. And one thing that I personally enjoy using is Calendly, and it offers more of a personal experience. And I think that that's one tool that people often forget. It it should be more than just like, okay, hey, let's have a meeting next Monday, and then there's no calendar invite, and you go cold turkey for 2 weeks or a week, and then 5 minutes before the meeting it's like, hey guys, here's the Zoom link, right? There has to be some form of proper structure, and you have to show that you're here to be more of a value partner and less of a strategic partner. And I think over the next business cycle, um, you're going to see more Web3 companies partner up with more like value partners instead of strategic partners that really just want to extort value. So, as like an angel myself, right? Whenever I want to fund a product, I use our media platform as leverage, and then connect them with more media companies who can provide them with YouTube AMAs, who can get them on a panel. So it's this consistent flow of added value. And um, one key term to always live by, which truly does stand the test of time, is ABC, always be closing. So anytime you're getting on a call with somebody, that should always lead to something else. You don't want to just have like, yeah, cool, okay, yeah, we'll talk over the coming weeks and see what we can do. Like, if you're gonna say no, you have to be direct. No is better than not saying anything. And so that's just part of business. Even though like you do want to be kind, you also have to be assertive. If it's not working out, then you know you just have to do what's appropriate. But being on time, being scheduled, and having somewhat of a roadmap with your respective lead, prospect, whatever label you want to attach to it, that's something that should not be abandoned. And definitely agree with Keisha when she says that, like, it shouldn't be something that's just discussed at an NFT party or a convention over some drinks, right? As fun as that is, we're not really going about like business to business conversation. And I think more people in Web3 need to be aware about that, that at the end of the day, like, we are trying to navigate this relatively young ecosystem. And that is something that I can add to what Keisha said. Overall, be accountable and dependable. If you know that your respective partner is lacking in marketing and community, then see how you can help out with that, even if it's just connecting them with another business, because you never know down the road, they can repay you in some fashion, whether it's through a shout out, whether it's through onboarding somebody from your respective team to promote your product. Be kind, accountable, and on time.
On time, yes. I try to be. I think I'm pretty much always on time.
Yes, you are.
So I was gonna be late, but I literally ran to the computer to be on time. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, time is money. Like, be respectful of other people's time. So I completely agree. Go ahead, Cowboy, and then Curtis.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to add that, as a founder, you sometimes you only have one shot to make that connection. So you definitely want to have a presentable product or service, professional. Take that extra couple of days. I can tell you from my own experience, it is a pain in the ass to write a white paper, to do all the slides, to grammar and all that, and come up with all the words. But take that extra time, because all it takes is one connection. Jess comes across my website, she sees I have a white paper, she loves all the slides, and boom, now I'm having an AMA on Espresso Hour. You know what I'm saying? That's how fast life can change. So just, you know what I'm saying? Just take that extra time to do a little extra work, be a little extra professionalism, the on time especially, but take the extra time and turn your roadmap into a real white paper or into, 10 or 12 slides, and add financials in there too. You know, like you talk about, you know, what are you going to do with the actual money when you raise this money from the NFT fund or whatever? Where is it going to go? You know what I'm saying? So add all that in there, and then when you come across Val, you come across Jess, some of these superstars, and they're oh my god, this is amazing, and then boom, you're on an AMA, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop up, Jess, if you allow me, before Curtis, and I wanna listen to what Keisha has to say. But I think that was the reason, actually, what I decided to work with Tom. For those who don't know, I am part of the Roshimoto team, and it was because I believe in the project since the beginning. Like, there's one chance. I was very new, and for me it was like, you feel it or you don't feel it. What I realized about the project is, like, I felt the problem he was solving, the way, like, the magnitude of the problem he was solving, the opportunity he was creating, the clarity of the plan. That, sometimes when the person is taking time to actually put some love in the project. And what I think was because Bitcoin.com, I want to know your name because it's hard. What because said that at the end, it's all about being a valuable partner. And that value can be translated in so many different ways. And for me, the most important thing, besides what are you solving, how are you solving it, your indicators of success and failure, it's if your plan A does not work, what's your plan B? But that's me. Okay, let's go to Keisha and then Curtis, or Curtis and Keisha. I don't know, whoever wanna goes first.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump on real quickly to what Cowboy was saying as well, because he was saying, like, put the work into the white paper. But I think an important note to that is, like, learning how to delegate is a very powerful skill. Like, hire the people that do that on a daily basis and are experts as well. If that's not your strong suit, don't force it and then do what could be a shitty job, even if it sounds harsh, right? Like, hire the proper people that know how to do that. Like, spend some money. Those investments are worth it, and you're also probably, supporting a smaller business or a freelancer individual that is probably really good at their job and can just help you with that little push forward. But I just wanted to note that with, like, learning how to delegate and, like, getting people who know what they're doing and have experience in it, I think is important, whether it's for your white paper or your pitch deck or any of the aspects, right? It's super important to have, even if you can get at least a professional opinion, somebody to give you feedback on a white paper who has ran a business in that world or who has written 1,000 of those, right? Just even getting feedback or editing, I think it's super important, because I mean, I'm one of those people that I definitely don't know everything, and I like feedback and I like to learn from others. And I think that that approach helps as well when it comes to delegating and just being better, especially if you're the leader of the company. Learning those skills, I think, are important.
Amen.
Yep, you can't do it all. Totally agree. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, I thought I would just jump on that point. I'm definitely in like the much earlier stages than a lot of the speakers up here in terms of partnerships and like businesses and things like that. I, definitely have fallen into a lot of those pitfalls in the early stages, but something that I'm really trying to keep on the forefront of my mind as I move forward is, what perception do I want others to have of me and of the things I'm working on? So, taking that extra time to like think about my actions and like, oh, maybe I should plan this out and get a schedule on a calendar if I want to be perceived as organized, things like that. So, especially since I have an engineering background, not really, nothing really experienced in business until lately. So I really appreciate all the insights from all the speakers, and that's just my 2 cents.
I know, and I want to pick their brain before I go to you because I want to make sure we have enough time. BB, I'm going to call you BB. Let's just go with BB.
Yes, BB, perfect.
I wanted to pick, and maybe I'll go to Liz first, or I'm sorry, let's go to Keisha first. Where was the partnership that went wrong, and like what went wrong about it? And if you could have gone back, like, did you miss the sign about a bad partnership?
Yes. So I will not say names specifically, obviously,
No names,
but
no names.
but I think that one of the really bad partnerships that we were I was not really expecting, because there was a lot of things that looked good on paper, right? And a lot of promises being made and a lot of very high expectations put into place. And it was something that I was sort of brought into later on down the line after it's already kind of been established and talked about. So I wasn't super aware of everything that was going on. I just know that there was a trigger that was pulled and I was not behind the gun, right? And decisions were made very quickly, and then things just didn't go right in the sense of everything that was promised and over delivered and like over promised or just over shilled in a sense obviously just didn't happen. And money was lost, I think, on both sides of the coin. And I think that it comes to the process of vetting and actually knowing who you're working with, especially when it's like a longer term partnership, and not falling. It was very much a Web3 focus thing, and what happened there was that they were falling into this shill bro mentality of like, this other person is a genius or this other person knows what they're doing, they were behind such and such project, like I think this is the best decision we could ever make. Like, it was just a lot of that verbiage and a lot of that enthusiasm that I don't think is particularly healthy. And I think it can cause accidents and situations like that where things just take a downturn, and there was over expectations, and then things didn't go the right way and a lot of people weren't happy. So that's why I'm very adamant against that like sort of shilly bro mentality where it's just like, yeah, this sounds cool, this person did this and that, he's a genius, he sold out 5 of these collections, like he's just, like that type of stuff. Right away I'm just like, all right. And especially when people are telling me, I think we're the first and the best, like I think
Revolutionary, never been done.
yeah, this has never been done. And red flag, they start comparing themselves to other things and saying they're
Apple, the next Apple. Oh my God, I'll stop.
Exactly that sort of situation. And even if it sounds crazy, people fall into that. People really do fall into that. People fall into that verbiage. I feel like it happens every day on Twitter Spaces. So it's like, I think you have to be very aware of that, and actually, if something is revolutionary and next generation, no one has to say it, right? No one has to say that. I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So yeah, I think that's a
revolutionary. Yeah. Those are great points. Revolutionaries in my list of red flags of when you show like you should not.
It sounds socialist.
Yeah,
it sounds socialist.
It just throws up a red flag. It completely does. But Liz, what about you? Anything you want to share on that topic?
Yeah, so obviously I won't name names either, but I can just share of a moment that was like a partner deal I was working on, and it was just like really stressful. And yeah, so basically timing is a big issue too. Like, you need to bring in your people early because things can go haywire or like not pan out, or yeah. So last minute deals are not great. Bring in your people early. But so basically I was working with a team and they just like weren't very responsive, and I would have to chase them all the time to get stuff done. And we were kind of working on a really tight timeline and just trying to get all the different parts moving, like making sure integration was up and tested and running. And when you're integrating a tech like within, which is very common in Web3 for all these different apps or dApps like work together, integration has to happen and it has to be tested a lot. And then you have to wait for it to get approved on Google Play, getting approved on the Apple Store. That takes time. And so it's like it was a lot of chasing down, and then also agreeing on the deliverables for the partnership and going to market what those different things look like. And then like literally the morning of the announcement, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do this. And I'm like, You guys, this was supposed to go out 30 minutes ago. Mind you, they're all the way across the world. I'm waking up super early in my time, East Coast, to like make sure my team is like getting the right things done at the right time. And anyways, so then their CEO like Telegram FaceTimed me, which I didn't even know was a thing. And I'm like, what is he doing? So I get on the call and I'm like, hello? And he's like, hey, why aren't you on video? And I was like, because it's 6 a.m. and I'm in bed trying to launch this partnership. And then, so anyways, we go into like an entire conversation, and like he had valid reasons, but at the same time, it's like, why are you just now finding out about what we're doing? And so I guess the learning lessons from that are the timing, bringing in your right people on both sides early. And then if your partnership team is having a conversation with your partner's team, like think about who are stakeholders that need to be approving things, and make sure they're doing that ahead of time instead of depending on like maybe a staff marketer or a staff person like just going about their way doing things and like, oops, forgot to like mention it to you for approval, because like that happens, and then you get FaceTimed and Telegram from a CEO, like, okay. And yeah, that was wild. So that like really delayed, and the problem with that is like it made me look bad internally, so even though I was like grinding and hustling to do what I needed to do. So yeah, that was really frustrating, but just
But
like
looking back, do you think if you look back at the situations, were there any signs that you were like, now you look back, you're like, yeah, I knew this, maybe like them not being responsive, like were the signs there?
Yeah, looking back, like there were some signs like them not being responsive. And that's the thing too, like just being a responsive person can truly set you apart so much in partnerships, like, and building good relationships. Like partnerships are so rooted in like having a good relationship. So yeah, like I would have to chase them down. Hello, is this approved? Are we good here? They're like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, okay, cool.
No feedback.
Yeah, this cannot be an anxious attached type of relationship. It needs to be a secure relationship.
And it's like also not fair to like your partner for them to have to chase you down. Like you have to take accountability to and like be responsible for your side of the deal, because it's a partnership. So it goes both ways. And so yeah, that's super frustrating. But the thing that really like I wasn't anticipating the CEO FaceTime call. Like that really threw me for a loop, because I can get a little anal about things. And so literally the day before our launch, I was like on a call with them, going through everything line by line, detail by detail, because I'm also a detail freak to the point of like it being a red flag sometimes, but it helps. And they're like, yeah, everything looks great. We're ready to go. I'm like, okay, cool. 7 a.m. Like that's when we're hitting go. And then it's like 7:30. I'm like, hey guys, like what's happening? And then yeah, so I could not have anticipated that, because they told me everything was fine, but it wasn't. Anyways, that's my story, and it sucked, but it was fine.
We learn, we live, and we learn. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Because, and then Cowboy, and then we'll let Val chime in.
Yeah, so I guess I'll switch what I was going to say to what the topic is being discussed here. But as far as partnerships gone wrong, it would have to be on the VC side. So I was talking to this team. They wanted to build some settlement layer in ETH-L2s, right? And this was like, proof of concept. They didn't even have a website up. And I told them that I'm interested in what you guys are building. He had a deck, at least. He had a deck. So my offer was 2 to 3%, 2 to 3% of the total amount being raised, right? And essentially, like, I put a proposal saying, we can keep in touch twice a week. Here's my calendar, and schedules no calls whatsoever. And when he does finally decide to schedule a call, he just absolutely obliterates my notifications and starts switching times around and days. And when it comes to the actual time that I agree upon, right? Because when you get notified that you're being scheduled, the proper thing is for the individual that's scheduling you to give you a notification through DMs, right? Not just wait for you to, just respond yes and that's it, right? Like, have some follow up, right? But when we get to discussing like transaction details and all that stuff, when the time comes, right? So this individual raised $600,000 in committed capital. And when I finally give him the number, right, which was 2 to 3%, the look of disappointment on his face is just like so telling. And within 15 seconds, the call is pretty much wrapped up. And there's no for your time, there's no follow up. It's just, okay, we'll think about it. I'll talk to you soon. And it's like the big slap to the face. Like, you just wasted everybody's time. And the guy was like, a similar story to what Liz was saying about the whole FaceTime thing. Didn't even give a heads up or anything. And like, guys FaceTiming me at a university, it seems like, and it's all noisy. You see like this walking around and that stuff. And I proposed quite a bit, like, media connections and all that stuff. Get him on a YouTube AMA, two spaces, the whole nine, right, to get this kid up and starting. And when the time came down to it, it's like nothing. You just wasted everybody's time. And outside of that, probably this one protocol, I won't mention their name either. They already had a token out and everything. And when I came to a set amount that I was interested in, the founder ended up saying, hey, you know what? I think a better idea is whatever you want to give us, right? And he threw some imaginary number, 150,000. He's like, take 20% of 150,000 and just mark it by our token on chain so that the price looks good, and there can be an up only sort of market making if you guys can back us up on that. And on top of that, if people ape into the founder of this ecosystem, our token number can go up. And I am very, 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 very bearish on founders that talk about valuations, their valuations. Because to me, it entails that they basically want to abandon their product once it goes mainnet. And that to me screams showbro, right? That to me screams grift. So that's one of the few examples of how not to conduct this when regards to partnerships and basically closing the deal, right? Like, right when you get to the call, because it doesn't matter. Like, no intro calls, follow-up calls matter until that final call where it's like, contracts are involved, invoices are involved, what have you. That's what matters, the final call, right before when things get into fruition. And I think a lot of people, they lose their momentum in that. It is what it is, right? It's just a business cycle.
Just a part of the process. Yeah, completely agree. Go ahead, Cowboy.
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. So I've had a few failed partnerships, but I'll tell you a Web3 one. I'm a token dev, so I've done some shit coins. So a private group and decides to launch an animal charity token. So they grab up like five guys and me. I wasn't part of like the building a team. So one guy says, "We're launching a token. Great. I'm going on vacation." And I'm like, "Huh? Like, I thought this guy's gonna help us build this." So he actually goes on vacation. He comes back like a week later when we're about to launch. Like, literally like 5 minutes before launch, we got like 2,000 people in the Telegram chat. Everyone's waiting to ape. He comes back, he starts screaming at everyone, "Where's my tokens? Where's my tokens?" And I'm like, dude, you left us. You went on vacation. Everyone's telling him you left us. Like, we're not giving you anything. You left us. And he really went around saying we're scamming him when this guy literally didn't do anything. As soon as we mentioned we were going to do a project together, he says he's going on vacation. And he literally hopped in his RV and went on a vacation. And his response was, dude, I had no internet. I'm in my RV. I'm like, why would you get in your RV if you want to be a part of a project? You know what I'm saying? And he just literally was trying to like FUD us. Luckily, it turned out to be a good story. We gave away 26,000 to a charity, but that was crazy. To see someone, say that they're going on vacation and leave us as soon as we start a project, and we asked them to be involved.
That is wild. That is wild. Val, I know are you still there, Val?
Yeah, I'm here. This is crazy. Hearing all of this, it's crazy. I have to go. I have to jump up though. But yeah, I think there's also not one way of getting out of these things. It's also experience. I mean, a lot of people says that this happened more in Web3 than in real life, but I think one of the things that I've learned and I've seen that you need to also create a way of protecting yourself. So with all the process and knowing exactly what you want to get from a partner, it's not just you making yourself a good partner, but knowing exactly what you want to get from a partnership. And also know when to say, this is it. I don't want it anymore. I am not getting the results, because having clear indicators of what you want to get from the partnership will actually make you sure your partner is performing well. I think that will be my feedback. There are some fucked up, sorry for the word, I know you're going to cancel me, but I know there's like awful things happening in the space. And the more we can create a safer and like a very clear perspective what we want to get from a partnership, the more we will like also to understand when to say no and when to get out of those projects. This was an amazing space. Yes. Thank you.
Love it. Yeah, we are going to wrap it up soon. I have a few more questions for Val and I'm sorry, for Keisha and Liz, so I'll keep it to them. But thank you so much, Val. I know if you have to hop off, thank you so much for co-hosting.
Thank you. Thank everyone. See you soon.
Thank you, Val. So yeah, I'm going to be selfish, and I guess I'm going to ask a question from like a content creator's perspective. Obviously, there's a lot of content creators here. You have to reach out to brands. Any tips or do's or don'ts that maybe we shouldn't do when reaching out to brands that we want to work with? Just to, I guess before I preface that, like I do get contacted a lot to partner with brands and things like that. And sometimes I'm a little bit like shocked by the type of brands that reach out, because I'm like, when have you seen me talk about this? Like, why would you think I have any interest? And to me, like, for me, if I want to be a good partner, I feel like it has to be a product that I like and that I can relate to, because otherwise, like, it's a disservice, right? So, Keisha, I'll throw it over to you. Any thoughts about that? And then we'll go to Liz.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure your DMs are constantly packed, Jess, and a lot of the content creators, especially on Twitter. But I think something really important for that, and I think a tip, not just for content creators, but anybody who creates content, media outlets or companies, it's about properly curating and selecting who you're working with. You could get like 100 amazing deals today in your DMs. Obviously, you can't do all of them, but you have to be very careful and curate properly who you are going to choose and who you're going to work with, because that affects your brand, your reputation. That says a lot about your voice. So obviously it's the right decision for you, even though it might be good money, even though whatever it may be. Sometimes you have to let some of that go, because that is not the right brand for you to work with. That's not the right company. You don't want to represent that. It just doesn't go with you. And I think that's perfectly okay. And I stand by a lot of creators and influencers that stand by that strongly, because if not, and you're just saying yes to everything, all of a sudden you become an ad placement, right? And you become like another ad placement on a website where people go on your feed and there's just ads and a bunch of nonsense. And then no one really knows, like, what does Jess like? What is she talking about? Like, what is her interest? Like, what is this brand? Because, you know, one day she's talking about Bitcoin, and then the next day she's trying to sell me, you know, this wild toothpaste company. You know, like it could be, it happens, and I think it's confusing, and I think influencers have to be really, really careful, especially when they're getting pitched to, right? I think they have to just be nitpicky. Sometimes I think it's worth it to hire an agent or hire a media team that helps you kind of curate through that, maybe even just an assistant that helps you curate through that. But when approaching brands, it should be organic and it should come naturally, in the sense like, hey, I do such and such, and you know, I have such and such audience, and I think it would really work with your brand. I'd love to work on something together. You know, I think it could just be really genuine and organic, and obviously you see a potential there and you think it makes sense. You're not going to go and say that to a brand that, you know, just what doesn't resonate with you, doesn't connect with you, and would probably say no. You're more likely to get a yes from a brand that obviously is interested. And then also, I think in like middlemans and intermediaries are important in this aspect, where there might be a brand that can actually, or a brand or a company that can actually connect you with another brand or a company, like they work with them, and that could be your avenue as well. And that, and or just being, or just also not just selling your services, but like, hey, I think this such and such would be a dope collaboration, I could help put it together, I think this would be cool, like, let you know, this is an idea. So I just think being open to that and being flexible, but staying true to your brand and your voice, and, you know, curating to the high standards that you deserve, which is perfectly fine.
Completely agree. Gotta be picky. I will not accept sponsorship from Little Papy Inu or whatever it
You're
is.
better than that, Jess. You're
I
better
am
than
better than this.
that.
Come on,
Exactly. And
Pepe wants to sponsor.
not that anything's wrong with that, also for the people who do show that, right? Like, to each their own. It works for some people. If it's working for you and you've got an audience and people vibe with it, cool. Like, you do your thing. Maybe that's your niche, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that when you're at a certain standard, or you're trying to push a company to, or your own brand to a certain way, you have to be nitpicky. You know, you can't, reputation, especially in this space, it means everything. So
Yeah,
we've already seen
otherwise
all
you
the,
end up in Twitter Spaces court with the rest of the community.
and you get canceled,
Exactly.
and then exactly.
Liz, what about you? Any thoughts or tips on that topic?
I mean, Keisha just had a mic drop moment. Like, everything she said, I completely agree with. I guess just to like add on to that, like when you're pitching a brand, like no need to write your life story in an email and like all these details about yourself. Like, kind of just be like short and sweet and direct to the point, and then like share, even if you have like an idea or like ways you see yourself partnering, like kind of create a vision for them. I think that's enticing, and also share like what the benefit of them working with you would be. Um, and then also, once this is a bit further down the line beyond pitching, but like once you do come to an agreement on a partnership, have a formal agreement or contract in place. I think those are really important. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't know. I mean, I like to use like actual lawyer drafted contracts, but you know, when it comes to content, depending on what you're creating, like let's say you're booked for making certain videos or Instagram Reels or TikToks, or you know, whatever type of content creation you might be, like you own that. That's your property, and I think that's really important. That's protected. You could license it out to a brand to use for a certain term, but they don't get to own it. They could use it for certain ways, but maybe not for others. Or maybe they can use it for organic posting, but not to run ads with. And those are all things that need to be documented in an agreement. So that way you do have protection over the content you're creating. And I think it's something that maybe people are like, oh, they're not going to do anything. It's fine, like whatever. But when you see your face or your content like being promoted on a billboard or on a website or being run for paid ads, that's generating a company thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars, like you never know, using your likeness and your content, and you're not being compensated for that, like to me, that I have a problem with that. So like I guess when it comes to creator content and deals, just make sure you're protecting yourself. If you do need contract resources, I have a friend that is a lawyer and does this specifically for creators. So I'm happy to like make a connection to get like templates. You don't have to pay like a ton of money like for a lawyer to do it for you. But I think that's really important. And then yeah, just like protecting your reputation, like you said. I feel like with Web3 it's a little different. I don't know if like you'd be doing a bunch of like Instagram reels or things like that yet, but yeah, just like protecting your reputation, but also don't forget to protect yourself. That goes with business, like B2B partnerships too. Like I think it's nice to have statement of works and agreements in place, because let's say you're working on a deal and or like a product integration or something with a company, but then all of a sudden they're like, oops, actually our roadmap changed, we're not going to do this anymore. Like that's literally, I've been in conversations like that, and thank God we had a contract in place and we're like, no, actually we are going to do this. Here's where we agreed to it and we got it done. So like people will try to pull things on you, and
Pull a fast one.
yeah, and like major companies, like people will try. So just make sure you're protected. That's
great points. And my last question before we wrap it up, and of course I have to ask, obviously you ladies use AI because you're using Notion, but at this point, should any brand or creator not be using AI? And how are you using it? Any tools that you just need in your day-to-day that Keisha and then Liz?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'm personally extremely interested in AI tech. Like I'm fascinated. I like to deep dive. I've talked to artists and different people who've used it. I'm working on an interview right now with somebody actually from the OpenAI team. And I mean, I'm super interested in technology. I think there's a lot of things. And I saw you pin to the top, Jess, the specific situation with AI sort of being banned on and taken off of Spotify. Everyone heard the Drake and the Weekend track that
That
AI.
was a banger.
It was. I swear to, I downloaded it. I was like, this is dope. I was very, I was like, this for me. I was like, holy shit, this is insane. Obviously, it's scary if you're a creator, if you're an artist. It's not that it's scary. It could be intimidating, or it could just be like another like, oh shit, another thing I have to go and learn, right? But me and my personal day-to-day, Notion just recently added this AI feature, so I've been playing around with it there. I think I like to play around a lot with AI when it comes to just like the ideation phases of things, asking it questions, telling me to gather resources. As somebody who does a lot of research, like this facilitates so much and just saves me so much time with me being able to be like, hey, give me the top 5 companies who are experts in this and the links and the resources back to them, or give me this amount of data or the statistics, and it'll do it in like seconds, right? So I think I implement it into my day-to-day, and I make it an effort to learn it as much as I possibly can, because I feel like it is something we're going to have to learn one way or another, right? I think regardless of the laws and the news we're hearing, this is inevitable technology that's going to be implemented into everything pretty much, right? And people are learning how to use it, and it's advancing a lot. I think for creators, and I have a great colleague on my team, Andrew, who's an attorney, and me and him always kind of dive deep in together about the legalities of all of this and all of the laws and people being sued, artists, and now this happening with the AI track. Like it's sort of put Spotify and Apple into a little bit of a corner, or anybody who kind of played the track. And I think in terms of creators, use it, right? Use it, learn how to use it, take advantage of it when it facilitates certain things. But I think when it comes to monetizing it on a huge level or playing around with others' IP, right? Like the Drake and Weekend track was dope, but I would be very careful about using another person's voice or using another person's IP or identity or brand and then pushing it out there into the world. I think that's where it definitely crosses the line. Don't mix and mash and use other people's IP. If you're going to use AI, create something original and yours, and then leverage the technology in that shape or form. But I think where it gets very tricky and you can get in trouble is when you're using brands IPs, when you're using other artists IPs and like voices. Like I think that's almost like, I don't know, it's crazy to think that it's almost like identity theft. Like how could you take my voice and make something with my voice? I don't know, like I think laws are going to start coming out about this like crazy. I think it's a very big deal. I don't think you should leverage people or use other things. Make original content with it, have fun with it. But when it comes to utilizing other IP, be careful and be careful what you're monetizing it with. Like if you're creating things with AI and you're making money with it, just be careful. Just be careful about what you're doing and make sure it's original and make sure it's not being put somewhere else. Because I think when the government and lawmakers and people start suing other people, once you're making money with it, right? If you're just playing around and putting out a couple posts, okay, but you start selling AI generated images, or imagine if somebody would have dropped that Drake and Weeknd song as an NFT, like they could have gotten sued insanely, right? So it's things like that where I think you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think AI Drake dropped a second song and it's also a banger. It's called like Winter something. So go check it out. I shouldn't even be promoting it. But really quick, let's go to Will and then Dub. Go ahead. Hey, Will, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Jess? I hope everybody on the panel's doing well.
Oh, wait, Will, I'm sorry. I was supposed to go to Liz next. Liz, that AI question was for you next. I'm so bad. Sorry.
It's okay. Mine will be super short. I haven't played around too much with it, but yeah, I've played with Notion AI and I love it. I'm working on a new creative venture for myself, like maybe a podcast. So Jess, I might come for you for questions, but I was like, can you write a podcast like description for me? This is what it's about. And it spit out a pretty good one. So I like using it just like to save my own brain power, honestly. And then I can go in and just like customize it to match my voice. So I've used it in that way, or I've tried Chat GPT, like with this digital product I'm working on, like what are some objections someone would have to this topic? And like, then it'll spit out some answers. So then it's like, oh, that helps tailor some of your message. Yeah.
Oh, did we lose her?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can.
Oh no, I don't know where I left off, but basically that's it. I've just played around, like asking some questions, like to help save me some time, but nothing crazy.
Oh yeah, Chat GPT is your best friend, and I use like an extension that you can use on the web. So if I am like doing a project, I'll say, hey, summarize this white paper for me. I don't have to read the whole thing. Come up with some questions for me. I may or may have not asked Chat GPT for some questions for this show, but that's up for you guys to figure that out whether I did or not. But definitely, like, it's my best friend. It's not going to replace me, but I'm definitely going to put it to work. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I mean, I hope everyone on the panel's doing well, by the way. I kind of came on to ask some questions. I think a lot of them really got answered before I even got a chance to ask them, which is really awesome. It just shows kind of the level of education that's going on around AI. And I really wanted to kind of more press on like what the use case was for each person, what everybody was kind of utilizing. But a lot of you have already kind of explained that. And I think that's really great. I think a lot of that is, a lot of that was said and everything like that. It is really kind of the best use case for AI. I think like people should still kind of reach out for original ideas, but it's a good way, I think, personally, to get through things like writer's block, for instance, mathematical equations. Hey, what's M2 money supply? What's global current global liquidity, so on and so forth. Like you can find all that out pretty easily, I would say, through that type of software. And like I think it's used really well in those aspects, and I think that that's kind of the best use case in my own personal opinion. I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of my questions were already answered basically by Keisha as well as Liz.
Yeah, and aside from like using, and just for me, aside from using it to like help me, absorb information in a short amount of time, sometimes I don't have time to read 3 pages. I just need the bullet points and to be able to come up with just to grasp the concept of something. And then I also use, I know like for Twitter Spaces, there's also Zealous app, which uses AI. It kind of scrapes the content and says, hey, these are your best clips, and you can create like little audiograms from it. So instead of having to go back and play like what were your best moments, I'm able to just like go and say, okay, they picked this, I'll just create a little audiogram. So I'm looking for any cheat code. Go ahead, because, and then Dep.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I definitely think that when you start using AI to use someone else's IP, I think that ends up like a lot of issues, and definitely a lot of like court cases might come off of that. And I think perhaps it's something like ChatGPT that's always being upgraded. Because we know like the ChatGPT that we use like now is definitely not the same one that we used back in December. At least for myself, I've noticed a significant amount of changes. Um, but I think there might be something where, whenever you use these AI platforms, that before you get like a Drake soundtrack or anything like that, I think there's going to be somewhat of a block, and eventually it's going to be heavily censored. And if the user would find a way around that, then they might be subject to some like IP rights violations. And it might not happen now, but further down the road, I feel like it's definitely going to happen. And I'd be very, very, very careful trying to interact with these AI platforms, because everything on the internet can be traced back down to you. Everything from signing up to your Coinbase and all that stuff, Facebook, Twitter posts, all that could be tracked down. And we know from what Elon said that the prior executive board of Twitter was able to check your DMs. So to think that like Sam Altman and his executive board isn't able to see what questions you ask or what statements you put into ChatGPT and trace that back to you, I think it'd be very, very naive. Same goes for other platforms. I'd be very, very cautious when it comes to that. But as far as myself, like what ChatGPT is beneficial for me is sort of like a Grammarly, so like whenever you have an interaction with someone, like before a phone call, right, like before a phone call with a respective founder or what have you, I'll just input a ton of data, as much data as I know personally, onto ChatGPT, and I just put like, okay, like if like I give them the situation, like put this short and concise, right, like wrap all of your ideas into a brief statement. Because as as some of the panel here can tell, I tend to go on long-winded statements, and I tend to rant on. So
yeah, you got to keep it short because I got to go after Dep.
Yeah. So that's what AI is beneficial for me in particular.
Yeah, no, I think those are all great points. We all got to save time, and we have Dep here. Welcome, Dep.
Hey, Jess. Congrats on the yellow check mark. That was awesome the other day seeing that. I was like, God damn.
Congratulate Elon. Don't congratulate me.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? You got to pay Elon for it.
Oh, you do? You have to pay for that? How much do you have to pay for that, John?
Oh, DM me. Don't publicize that.
Oh.
Hey, I thought you were joking. Did your wallet really get drained?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And now you're posting like a funny meme under your post. I feel so bad now.
Oh, you're fine. I'm satire, so I got a lot of that. Were you serious? I was like, That's the one thing you don't ship post. That's one of those like you don't ship post that. It's all good though. I heard AI and I had to jump up because I had an interaction in the classroom today with that actually. Um, we were going through creating theses for our papers, and the students are to summarize and kind of create their own thoughts and themes using kind of literature we're going through. And I go from talking to his name is David. I'm like, David, he's working through his thesis. He's like, Mr. Dupp, I don't get it, right? And he can barely articulate his thesis in like 2 words. It's literally he's using like very childish verbiage, and he's like a 10th grader, honors class, mind you. And then so I walk away and I come back in like 2 minutes, and he has a 7-sentence like summary of one of his articles for said paper. And I'm like, oh, like how'd you get that, David? He's like, oh, I was just cooking. It's from my head. I was like, so you're telling me I went from leaving here, you barely being able to articulate well this thesis, to being able to summarize this article to use for your thesis. I was like, that's ChatGPT, huh? And he's like, no. And then we went down this long kind of rant, and then he's like, yeah, it was ChatGPT because the browser popped up. But it was so hard to get him to really be able to write it himself, right? He could not fathom how to like sit there and think about how he wanted to word this. And I'm so nervous in that regard of like, obviously like we do it well because we understand how to think and operate and like be able to think for ourselves and use the machine as a crutch. But these kids are using it as the end all be all. Like, this is my answer. I'm just going to plug this in. And when it comes time to actually talk or to articulate their words, it's like mush, because he sat there staring at the screen, and I had to walk him through a 4-sentence kind of breakdown of what we're going to do. And it was just like pulling teeth. And I was just very scared, honestly.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, I've sometimes put stuff into ChatGPT and it gives you back like the wrong information. And I feel like if you don't understand the concept that you're researching, might not be a good idea to like just go put your whole base yourself on the results, like without doing any fact checking, because there's a possibility that it's wrong. And I do have a screenshot where ChatGPT apologized to me because they were wrong after I had to like get it out of them. I had to like give it more information. They're like, oh yeah, we were wrong, like now. And again, isn't the cutoff like 2021? So definitely it could give you back wrong information. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But I think I think everybody here is like ahead of the game. Everybody's here is using it, and it's just whether we're going to use it the right way or not, it's still undetermined.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I do think it is good for facilitating thought and helping us get to a point where we're able to operate more effectively. But I think there has to be a guideline as to how we go about it, because like a lot of these younger developing brains are not going to be able to fathom that concept. And if they're just automatically going to ChatGPT to plug it in, it's just like they're not going to get anything out of it, right? And it's just they're not really doing the work. They're not really even understanding the work, right? Because they're just putting it copy paste blah, right? And maybe they'll look through, maybe they'll reword it a little bit, but like for the most part, they're not getting that like critical thinking.
I feel like I could go really deep into that point, Jess, but I know we're wrapping up. But I just wanted to say, like what Dupe was saying about how it's affecting kids. I think that it's not just kids. I think we have to be careful on a global level of how we use it. But I think that the precedent that AI is setting now and how people are using it almost like a little mini side assistant, your little robot helper, like someone who really can take your ideas, take you as an individual to the next level and kind of become this, America's dream in the sense of like top hustler. But I think that with AI progressing and just the tech, the way it's progressing now, I think the way that kids are going to learn and the way that we're going to work in our future society, I think all of that's going to change. I think we have to, I think it's going to change because of the tech in terms of how we adapt around it and what our education system is going to look like and what our work flow is going to look like. I'm a big believer in that whole concept of what we know now and what we kind of grew up with. It's taken a really long time, but I think we're going to start seeing a shift on how that changes and then how that has to do and connects with AI and all this tech coming out. That's a point for a whole different day. But I just wanted to put that out there because it's something that I'm very not certain of, but that I think about a lot because I think we're seeing it even now in terms of how the technology is being used. We're already seeing designer workflows and big program and software companies change how their softwares work because AI exists. And then thus the effect of that is how a designer uses that software and how a designer works and so forth. So I just think it's more of a domino effect. And yeah, we just have to see how it progresses.
Yeah, it's definitely dominating because every conversation, whatever topic I bring up, we make the space about, it always ends up with AI. And like, I feel like as a content creator, I'm planning to be replaced. So if you're not planning for that, like you're going to be far behind. Somebody already held their first AI Twitter space. I believe that was like the first AI Twitter space host. And with Valley, which is like the voice application for DALI, like how is that going to play a role? Like there might be a whole lot of AI, Twitter Spaces hosts. You might not even know it's me. Maybe it's my AI model hosting the space. But guys, I do have to go. We're way over time. I'm sorry, Will. It's been a long day. But any last, okay, go ahead, Will, and then Dub, and then we'll throw it over to Liz and Keisha to wrap it up. Go ahead, guys.
All right, I'll be really fast. I know everybody's on time schedule. I just want to throw it out there. Just think of AI as kind of like cell phones when they came out, right? A lot of people thought cell phones would destroy society because of the ease of access to the internet. I think so. I think AI will be in a similar situation. We'll start out with a lot of people using it as a crutch, and then a lot of people will realize that it's not a crutch; it's just an addition to your life moving forward. That's all I wanted to throw out there.
Thanks, Will. Dub, you're up.
I just wanted to prolong this space.
Oh, by the way, did you got rugged on Solana or Ethereum?
Solana. So
okay, no, because I don't know if they have something similar, but there's this app on its ETH base. It's called JoinFire. It's free. And it shows you when you sign a transaction, it'll show you in pictures like these are the NFTs that are coming into your wallet and this is what's leaving your wallet. So it just makes transactions user friendly to read. So if you haven't checked it out, it's somewhere on my bio. It's called Fire. It's a free tool to save your JPEGs.
Yeah.
Last words. Yeah, we got to save the JPEGs, Dub. Go ahead, Dub.
No, I was going to say, I DM'd them. I was like, we need to get your ass on Solana. They didn't reply.
Yeah, we definitely need them on Solana. Liz, any last words? Thank you so much for coming by tonight and sharing your alpha.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. I love talking about partnerships and all of this stuff. So I don't really have any last words except partnerships are fun. If it's something that you want to do or get into or try, don't let the fear of reaching out or pitching or having an idea and sharing it with someone hold you back. So go for it. And if you ever have questions or want to chat about it, my DMs are open.
Love it. Keisha, what about you?
Well, I kind of went into my AI spiel, so I think I would just leave it as like jumping off what Liz said. Don't be afraid of partnerships. Use AI and stop using the word revolutionary to describe your product. Thank you for coming to Jess's TED Talk.
I completely agree. And don't be afraid to reach out and to be rejected. Like sometimes like trying to find partners, it's really like being out on the dating scene. You might get a lot of rejection. Some people don't even, acknowledge you back. And so it's definitely, for every 10 no's, there might be a one yes. So just keep on going. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to Keisha and Liz, to all the speakers and listeners.